I think this is a good opportunity for us to introduce our newest segment, What's More Likely? As we walk into the Italian Grand Prix, Kevin and I are just going to ask each other some questions. We're going to discuss what's more likely to happen this upcoming Grand Prix weekend. You guys let us know what you think down in the comments, too. You think we're crazy? Do you think that we're over the top? One of us is right, one of us is wrong? Or maybe we're both wrong. You let us know.
I've got three.
You've got three.
I've got three.
Okay.
I had two, and then I came up with one in the middle of this segment. So,
all right, let me get this thing started.
I wanted to start.
Let me get this thing started. This is
my
machination.
Yeah, you did.
Machination. I came up with it. Let me start. Look, here was my first question. What's more likely this weekend? A Ferrari on the podium or the field?
Ooh.
In Monza.
Ferrari on the podium or the
Last time
field.
they had a double DNF walking into Monza, they walked out with a 1-2. Charles won here last year. This might be Lewis's great opportunity at a track where he has tied for the most wins, 5 wins in Monza. Is it a Ferrari in third? Let's assume that McLaren, take the top 2 spots. Is there going to be a Ferrari in third place?
I'm taking the field.
You're taking the field?
I'm taking the field.
Interesting. Who do you think in the field?
No, that's not how this works.
No, like who? But like, do you have somebody you're leaning towards? No,
you don't.
You're leaning towards.
I want to know. You don't go on a betting sign that say, "Would you take this team in the Super Bowl or the field?" And then you're like, "I take the field." And they're like, "Ooh."
I'm curious if you have somebody in mind though. Like, do you have more confidence in one driver over
I would have more confidence in Mercedes probably making a podium. I don't know.
Okay. I would also go with the field. I think that it's going to be either Max or George probably sitting in P3. They've just been more consistent. I hate to ruin the Tifosi's good time. It's possible.
They're not having a good time.
Yeah, every Ferrari fan I know, even in P2 in the constructors this year, the most miserable fans I've met in Formula One. And there are other fans I have met from other teams that are like, you know what? It is what it is. Ferrari fans, this is miserable. This is the worst season of my entire life. You guys are P2. Move if you want. Go ahead. You're what's more likely.
All right. I'll start with the one that's most recent. Because we were talking about it earlier and it popped in my head. I almost said it, and then I reserved. What's more likely? Yuki Tsunoda replaces Lance Stroll or Fernando Alonso? Now, hold on. You're probably thinking, Kevin, what are you talking about? Fernando Alonso is one of the best drivers of all time. I understand. He's also old, a very old rookie that we're talking about here in Fernando Alonso. Could it be possible that Yuki Tsunoda signs to Aston Martin as a reserve and waits in the wing to either replace Lance because he sucks, or takes over for Fernando when he's retired? What's more likely? Yuki replaces Lance or Alonso?
I think there are a couple of different ways to look at this. Is Lance Stroll going to remain in this sport for, let's say, maybe the next 2 to 3 years? Probably. His dad still owns the team. Fernando Alonso,
part of it.
Is Fernando Alonso going to be in this sport for maybe another 3 years? That I don't think so.
I'd say no.
I would say even in that case, I don't think Yuki replaces Alonso. I think it is more likely that Stroll has such a bad year that the Saudi backing for Aston Martin forced Lance Stroll to make a business decision with his son. I am going to say it's going to be Lance Stroll. I think it's just Stroll because Alonso, I don't think falls off a cliff. I think it would be much more prevalent to see it in 2026 if Lance Stroll is just not cutting the mustard. Let's say Aston Martin kick ass to start in 2026. Fernando Alonso is rocking wins, right? Adrian Newey's got it. He has been ahead of this game. He knew exactly what he wanted to do when he got to Aston Martin. The Honda engine's badass. And Fernando Alonso's winning. But Lance Stroll is, maybe hugging P11. I'm just saying, you're leaving money on the table if you can't win the constructors. even if you're 2 or 3, right, because of Fernando Alonso, it's not going to cut the mustard by itself. You're leaving podium places off. So I think that it would be more likely that Yuki walks in if he's putting up better simulator times or practice times or whatever and takes over Lance Stroll's seat if Yuki can prove that he's maybe a bit more consistent. I'm going to say Yuki.
Okay.
Stroll.
Fair enough. Do you want to do snake draft or you just want to go back and forth?
You go ahead. You go ahead for your second one.
Which one do I want to do? Let's do this one. I'm going to say my best one for my last one. Hadjar seat 26 in a Red Bull. What's more likely is based on 2026. Hadjar's seat in 2026 or Kimi over 2 race wins in 2026.
Interesting question. Is it more likely that Hadjar is in the Red Bull seat, is what you're asking, or Kimi wins 2 races next year?
Yeah.
If the Mercedes engine is as good as we think it is, and at least as good as it's been reported. Look, but you already know what I'm going to say. Like, I think Hadjar is going to Red Bull in 2026. I feel like this is an annoyingly pointed question because I think both things are incredibly possible. I'm going to say Hadjar at Red Bull in 2026. I think that that's the most likely thing that is going to happen. You can't predict a race win in 2026 any more than you can predict what you're going to have for dinner in 2 weeks, right? Like, you're not going to know. There's no guarantees. Maybe it's a weird analogy, but you understand what I'm saying. It's so far ahead of us right now. We won't even have a clue what the order is until we see qualifying in Australia for the first time. We just won't know. We might have an idea watching practices and stuff, but like you never really get the full picture. We thought that maybe Williams were going to be more towards the front. They were a midfielder. They've been a midfielder all year, to your credit, but it's just way too early to know. I'm going to say Hadjar. What about you?
All right, fair enough. I was probably going to say Hadjar as well, but I wrote this down before we got into our Hadjar discussion, so I didn't know at that time that you were fully bought in. So I thought it would be an interesting question. I feel that's about my last one. My last one's more spicy, so
it's interesting that you brought up a Hadjar and Kimi question because that is the theme of my next What's More Likely. What's more likely? Isack Hadjar or Kimi Antonelli finishes higher at Monza this weekend?
I would take Kimi Antonelli.
Interesting. I want you to defend that.
As much consistency as Isack Hadjar puts together, man, I don't know. That's tough.
I appreciate you're having a struggle with this question.
It is really tough.
This is a tough question. And look, I think that there's a case for both, which is why it makes it fun. I did pick Kimi. And you're going to say, Tristan, it's because you're a homer. I'm going to tell you it's because you're right. But my justification for this, it is his home race, but he got his jitters out of the way at Mach speed last year in Monza, I would hope. Right? Going through the Parabolica, crashing with like 50 plus Gs or whatever, scary incident, but the kid was flying, showed so much confidence. He was on fire in Zandvoort before his collision with Charles. And I think it would take a lot for the V-Carbs to outperform the Mercedes on merit twice in a row.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning on. I think that's kind of what I'm leaning on. I don't know if we could. A real betting man would have put the Hadjar is going to podium 2 weeks in a row. So,
well, I don't think him necessarily podiums.
No, and I know, and I'm not saying. I'm saying that to say I don't think the Hadjar is going to have the drive of his life 2 weeks in a row. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I do believe that he's going to continue to be consistent, but I could see a situation where Hadjar is like P8 and
has a respectable
P7, P6, something like that. So I agree with you. I will also say Kimi.
Okay, and your final, what's more likely?
How confident do you feel about yours?
I only had 2, brother. I
Oh, you
told
only
we
have
were
two.
doing-
Perfect.
We were
Perfect,
we were doing
perfect,
2 and
perfect.
2. You get to round out the segment. I got to start it. You get to finish.
All right. What's more likely, a Williams podium or Ferrari win
In Monza
in general, just for the rest of the year?
for the rest of the year.
At any point for the rest of the year.
I mean, we got to see a V carb on the podium this year. That was interesting. We have gotten to see a steak Sauber
I was going to say,
F1, on the podium this year. What we have not seen is a Ferrari win. I am going to say I think that it's more likely we see Williams on the podium, unfortunately. I hate to be a hater for
Yeah.
I hate to sound like a hater for Ferrari. The problem is
Yes.
they have been relatively inconsistent. And it is not the driver's fault. I really do believe it's the car. Now it's Ferrari, you would hope that they could find a way to win, but they just have not shown that this year. They got one sprint win in China at one of Lewis's, favorite spots. But yeah, I think that what we've seen this year and how crazy it's been, it would not shock me to see an Alex Albon P3. He's been really close. What about you?
You know where I'm going.
You're going Williams?
Yeah, you know where I'm going.
All right. Well,
I'm glad that you tussled with that. I'm glad you tussled with that a little bit.
No, that's a fun question.
On paper, it looks crazy, but
yeah, I appreciate it. It's a fun question. Look, and with that being one of our feature segments, I do want to keep that going into race weekends. I want to recap those after race weekends as well. That's going to be the fun thing. I really do like this idea for what's more likely. You guys let us know down in the comments what you thought. What was more likely one way or the other? Or were we being irrational? Were we being crazy? Whatever. I want to know what you guys think. Respond to each of them. Feel free. I know this is definitely going to hit social media, so you can respond to them on Instagram, TikTok, even on YouTube clips. They'll be there.